The galaxy had always been a place of endless mysteries filled with stars, nebulae, and countless worlds. For thousands of years, the Zorathian Empire had ruled over it like a shadow stretched across the stars. They were proud conquerors with fleets so large they could blot out the skies of any world they visited. To the smaller civilizations of the galaxy, the Zorathians were like gods, untouchable and undefeatable. Their rule was built not only on strength, but also on fear. Planet after planet had fallen before them. Sometimes the Zorathians destroyed resistance within a day, sometimes within a week, but always within a short time. To them, conquest had become a routine. It was on one ordinary cycle deep in the command halls of the Zorathian High Fleet that a new target was chosen. Their long-range scanners had detected an isolated blue planet orbiting a yellow sun. Its people were classified as a young species, still walking on the lower steps of the technological ladder. Their ships were small, their defenses weak, their history marked by endless wars among themselves. The name of this world was Earth. The High Command considered the discovery a gift. Earth was positioned in a region of the galaxy where several trade routes passed. Conquering it would strengthen their hold. Besides, it would serve as a reminder to the galaxy that the Empire's power never faded. Admiral Takar, commander of the chosen fleet, stood before the holographic display in the vast control chamber. His scales glistened in the light as he studied the blue planet. He narrowed his eyes and allowed a thin smile. "A simple task," he said to his officers. "These humans will kneel within hours. They have no idea what is coming." The officers agreed with confident nods. Their fleet was the pride of the Empire, a massive armada of warships equipped with plasma cannons, shield projectors, and advanced cloaking devices. Each ship had destroyed entire cities on other worlds with a single strike. Against such power, Earth's resistance was expected to be meaningless. Orders spread quickly through the fleet. Engines roared and the vast formation of Zorathian warships tore through space, leaving behind trails of energy as they jumped from system to system. Civilizations on nearby planets watched in silence as the fleet passed, whispering among themselves, "Another world will fall. The humans will never stand a chance. The Empire remains unchallenged." In the meantime, far away on Earth, life continued in its ordinary rhythm. People worked in cities, children played in schools, scientists worked in laboratories, and leaders debated politics. No one on the surface had yet realized that a fleet larger than anything they could imagine was drawing closer with every passing hour. But not all of Earth was blind. Hidden deep within mountain ranges, under oceans, and in secret stations orbiting high above, humans had been preparing for a long time. They had no proof of who would come, but they had always known someone would. Humanity had learned from history. Every time they grew stronger, a greater challenge appeared. And in the silence of the stars, they had prepared for the day when that challenge would not come from Earth itself, but from beyond. The Zorathian fleet finally reached the edge of the solar system. They passed the orbit of Neptune without slowing down. Earth's satellites designed to track faraway objects picked up the signals instantly. At first, scientists were confused by the enormous number of contacts. Then the truth spread like a storm across secret channels. Something was coming. In underground command centers, world leaders gathered. Generals, scientists, and strategists studied the approaching fleet. Fear flashed across some faces, but there was also a calm determination. They had expected this day. "Are we ready?" one leader asked. "As ready as we'll ever be," a general replied. The Zorathians, still confident, drew closer. Their scanners swept across the solar system. They observed Mars, the asteroid belt, and the moons of Jupiter. When their instruments locked onto Earth, they laughed at what they saw. A world rich in resources but armed with what seemed to be weak defenses. Admiral Takar rose from his seat on the flagship. His voice echoed through the fleet as he sent a message toward Earth. "People of the planet called Earth," the transmission began. "You stand before the Zorathian Empire, rulers of half the galaxy. You are primitive and weak, yet we offer you mercy. Surrender your world and serve the Empire, or we will burn your skies and reduce your cities to ashes." The message spread across all human communication channels. Radios, televisions, satellites, all carried the same arrogant voice. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. People stared at their screens in disbelief. An alien fleet? An empire demanding surrender? It sounded like fiction, yet it was happening before their eyes. But the world did not fall into chaos. Instead, something unexpected happened. The message united humanity in silence. Ordinary people waited for answers, while hidden forces began to move. Satellites shifted positions. Defense grids activated quietly. In the skies above, systems that had been disguised as communication satellites revealed their true purpose. Earth's leaders did not respond to the Zorathian threat. Not a single word was sent back. It was as if humanity had decided to ignore the Empire entirely. The silence puzzled Admiral Takar. He expected fear, pleas, or at least anger. Instead, there was nothing but quiet. He turned to his officers with a dismissive smile. They are too shocked to speak. It will not matter. By the next cycle, they will kneel. As the fleet entered Earth's orbit, cities below lit up with activity. People looked to the skies, some with fear, some with awe. The Zorathian ships cast enormous shadows as they formed their attack pattern. Their cannons glowed, ready to unleash destruction upon the planet. Yet deep beneath the surface of Earth, in bunkers and hidden command posts, humans watched every move with calm eyes. Generals stood before screens, scientists monitored energy readings, and operators waited for a single command. The time for hiding was over. The invaders had arrived, and humanity, often underestimated, was ready. The Zorathian fleet spread out across Earth's orbit like a wall of steel and fire. Hundreds of massive warships circled the blue planet, their glowing engines painting streaks of light against the darkness of space. For the Zorathians, this was a familiar moment, the calm before they crushed another civilization under the Empire's rule. Admiral Takar stood proudly on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Wrath. The control chamber stretched wide, filled with polished consoles, glowing symbols, and officers moving with strict precision. Through the towering view screen, Earth appeared below them, a fragile world of oceans and green continents. Takar's voice was steady as he spoke. Prepare the fleet. We will fire a warning strike. Their silence proves their weakness. His officers obeyed. Orders raced through the armada. Cannons shifted into position, and energy cores hummed as they filled with destructive power. The Zorathians expected no resistance. They had seen this pattern countless times before. Send a demand, hear silence, unleash destruction, and then collect surrender. But on Earth, silence did not mean fear. It meant calculation. In a hidden command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, rows of glowing screens filled a vast underground hall. Generals from different nations stood side by side, a rare sight of unity. Scientists in lab coats whispered numbers as they tracked the invaders. Operators sat at their stations, fingers hovering above controls linked to weapons no outsider had ever seen. General Harris, a man with silver hair and calm eyes, leaned over the central table. A three-dimensional map of Earth's orbit glowed above it, filled with red markers representing Zorathian ships. They are charging weapons, an operator reported. Harris nodded. Let them fire first. We must see their true power before we answer. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what was coming. Above the planet, Admiral Takar raised his clawed hand. Fire. In perfect unison, dozens of Zorathian warships unleashed plasma bolts. Brilliant streams of energy tore through the void, glowing like miniature suns as they rushed toward Earth's atmosphere. The weapons had destroyed entire civilizations in the past. To the Zorathians, it was a simple display of dominance. But as the plasma entered Earth's skies, something unexpected happened. The bolts slowed, shimmered, and then dissolved into harmless sparks. The energy scattered like dying fireworks, leaving only fading trails of light. Not a single city was touched. Not a single human was harmed. The bridge of the Dominion's Wrath erupted in confusion. Officers shouted reports, their eyes wide. Admiral Takar gripped the edge of his console. What happened to the plasma? He demanded. Unknown, Admiral. Our weapons, they are being neutralized before impact. On Earth, the truth was clear. Hidden defense systems had activated. For decades, humans had been developing shields invisible to the eye, designed not to block metal, but to erase energy itself. The plasma had met the barrier and simply ceased to exist. In the underground command center, the operators exchanged relieved glances. General Harris remained calm, his hands clasped behind his back. They've seen nothing yet, he said quietly. The Zorathians, however, were not ready to accept defeat. Adjust the frequency of the cannons, Takar ordered sharply. Strike again, harder. Another wave of plasma fire erupted from the fleet. This time it was larger, brighter, and more powerful. Once again the bolts descended toward Earth, and once again they vanished, erased as though the planet itself refused to be touched. Gasps filled the Zorathian bridge. Officers stared at their screens in disbelief. It cannot be, one whispered. No world has resisted our cannons, Takar's eyes narrowed. For the first time, doubt flickered in his mind. But his pride as an admiral would not allow him to retreat. Very well, he said coldly. If they will not surrender, we will show them the full wrath of the Empire. Charge all primary weapons. As the Zorathian fleet prepared for a devastating attack, Earth's Defense Command made its move. General Harris gave a simple nod. Activate the grid. High above the planet, satellites that had long pretended to be ordinary suddenly revealed their true nature. Panels unfolded, glowing with streams of energy. Invisible lines connected one to another, forming a vast web across the skies. It was the Quantum Defense Grid, a shield system decades ahead of anything the galaxy had seen. The grid shimmered faintly for a moment, then vanished from sight. To the Zorathians, it looked as though nothing had changed. But the humans knew the barrier was now complete. Ready Phase 2, Harris ordered. Across hidden bases around the world, colossal rail cannons rose from underground silos. From the surface, they appeared as towering metal giants, their barrels pointing skyward. These were not ordinary weapons. They fired projectiles at speeds faster than light itself, guided by artificial intelligence systems that calculated trajectories beyond human reaction. For the first time, Earth prepared to strike back. In orbit, Admiral Takar gave the order. Fire all weapons! The fleet lit up like a storm. Plasma beams, energy torpedoes, and waves of destructive fire surged toward Earth. The sight was terrifying, a display of the Empire's fury. Yet as the weapons touched the grid, they dissolved into nothingness. Then, before the Zorathians could react, Earth answered. From the planet's surface, beams of pure energy shot upward. They lanced through space with impossible speed and accuracy, piercing Zorathian shields as if they were paper. One warship exploded instantly, a ball of fire scattering into debris. Another was cut cleanly in half, its burning remains tumbling toward the atmosphere. The Zorathian fleet, once confident, now roared with alarms. Officers shouted in panic. Crews scrambled to stabilize their ships. The mighty armada that had never known defeat was suddenly under fire from a world they thought primitive. Admiral Takar slammed his fist against the console. Impossible. How can they? But his words were cut short as another blast struck a nearby cruiser, tearing it apart. On Earth, the underground command center buzzed with controlled energy. Operators reported each destroyed enemy ship with steady voices. The scientists, usually calm, could not hide their astonishment at how effective the weapons were. General Harris allowed himself a rare smile. Let the galaxy know, he murmured. Earth is not weak. Meanwhile, the world above watched in awe. People in cities saw flashes of light in the skies, unaware of the full scale of the battle, but understanding enough to know their planet was fighting back. The fear that had begun with the alien message now turned into something stronger. Hope. For the first time, humanity was united not by fear of each other, but by the knowledge that together, they could face what came from the stars. In orbit, the Zorathian fleet struggled to regroup. Officers begged Admiral Takar for orders. Some suggested retreat, but Takar's pride would not allow it. No, he growled. We are the Empire. We do not run. Prepare countermeasures. They will not break us. Yet deep down he felt the first crack in his confidence. He had led countless campaigns, crushed countless worlds, but never had he seen a planet erase the Empire's weapons so easily. Never had an enemy struck back with such terrifying precision. The Zorathians thought they had come to conquer Earth. But now, for the first time in their history, they realized they might be the prey. And this was only the beginning. The void of space burned with light as Earth's weapons cut through the Zorathian fleet. Ships that had once been called invincible were torn apart in seconds. Explosions flared against the backdrop of stars, and for the first time in the Empire's history, its pride faltered. Admiral Takar gripped the railing of his flagship, his claws trembling. His fleet, his mighty fleet, was scattering like frightened prey. Half of the outer formation had already been reduced to debris. The humans, those so-called primitives, were not just resisting. They were destroying the Empire's finest warships with a precision that no other race had ever shown. Shields collapsing across multiple sectors, one officer shouted. Energy spikes coming from the surface. Another cried. We cannot withstand this firepower. Takar's jaw tightened. He had fought rebellions, crushed insurgents, and led dozens of conquests. But never had he seen weapons that ignored Zorathian shields so completely. He forced himself to breathe, his pride demanding strength. Calm yourselves, he barked. We are the Empire. We will not fall to a backwater planet. Focus your fire on their weapons. Overwhelm them. The Zorathians tried to fight back. Warships unleashed salvos of plasma, missiles, and energy beams. Yet, as before, Earth's invisible shield swallowed every attack. Nothing reached the surface. To the humans watching from command centers, it was like a storm passing harmlessly across a mountain. General Harris stood in the underground operations hall, his eyes steady on the glowing map. Dozens of red dots, each representing an enemy ship, flickered and vanished as Earth's counterattack struck. Status report, he said. 23 enemy vessels destroyed. 10 more heavily damaged, an operator replied. Losses on our side? None, sir. Grid is holding at full capacity. The general gave a short nod. Around him, the atmosphere was calm, almost clinical. It was not arrogance, but confidence built from years of preparation. The invaders had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. Above Earth, the battle shifted into chaos. The Empire's proud formation broke apart as ships tried to dodge the relentless human fire. Some attempted to regroup, while others spun out of control after their engines were disabled. Suddenly, a new wave of attacks emerged, not from Earth's surface, but from space itself. From behind the moon, swarms of sleek drones shot forward. They were small, fast, and armed with weapons that glowed like white fire. Built in secret lunar bases, these machines had been waiting for this moment. They darted through the Zorathian ranks, weaving around massive cruisers with impossible agility. Unidentified craft incoming, an officer screamed on the Dominion's wrath. They're too fast to track. The drones unleashed coordinated strikes. A destroyer's engines exploded in a flash. Another cruiser's shield projector was sliced apart, leaving it vulnerable to Earth's rail cannons. The Empire's massive ships, designed for overwhelming force, were suddenly helpless against the swarming precision of human machines. Admiral Takar's pride boiled into fury. Destroy those pests. Focus all fire on the drones. But it was already too late. The drones struck, retreated, and struck again. Each attack crippled another warship. The fleet was unraveling. In the underground command center, scientists monitored the drone swarms. Their faces glowed with the light of the screens as they guided the machines with the help of advanced artificial intelligence. They are working as designed, one scientist whispered. Every strike is calculated. Every move is perfect. General Harris said nothing. He only watched as the red markers vanished one by one. On the surface of Earth, people across the world could see fragments of the battle. Bright streaks of light cut through the night sky as wreckage fell through the atmosphere. To ordinary citizens, it was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The world had been attacked by an empire that ruled the stars, yet humanity was standing tall. Admiral Takar refused to accept defeat. His officers urged retreat, their voices trembling. Admiral, we cannot withstand their fire. Our losses are climbing. We must fall back. No! Takar roared, slamming his claw against the console. The Empire does not retreat from primitives. Rally the fleet. Prepare a concentrated strike. We will burn their defenses away with one final attack. Obeying his order, the remaining Zorathian ships tried to regroup into a tighter formation. Energy cores flared as they gathered power for a massive combined strike. On Earth, General Harris observed the sudden shift. He saw the surviving red dots pulling into position, forming a deadly cluster above the planet. They're preparing something, an operator warned. Yes, Harris said quietly. Their last move. The Zorathians unleashed it. A storm of plasma, missiles, and focused energy beams poured down at once, more than Earth had yet faced. The sky above the planet lit up like a second sun. For a moment, even the operators in the command center held their breath. Could the grid withstand this much power at once? The storm slammed into the barrier. The air above the planet shimmered, glowing like liquid glass as the grid absorbed the impact. The ground rumbled faintly. Windows shook in cities, but still the shield held. And then, just as quickly as it began, the storm was gone. The Earth remained untouched. The Zarathian fleet was drained, its weapons spent, its pride shattered. General Harris gave the order. Phase 3. End this. The grid shifted from defense to offense. Beams of concentrated energy shot upward, faster and stronger than before. The lunar drones swarmed again, striking with flawless coordination. Rail cannons on Earth launched their final payloads, projectiles moving at impossible speed. Ship after ship was torn apart. Cruisers exploded in brilliant flashes. Destroyers broke into fragments. Even the massive battle carriers of the Empire crumbled under the relentless storm. On the Dominion's wrath, Admiral Takar felt the deck shake violently as explosions rocked the hull. His officers cried out as sparks burst from consoles. Admiral, shields failing. Engines offline. We cannot escape. Takar's heart pounded. For the first time in his long career, he felt true fear. He looked at the planet below, at the species he had thought weak, and realized the truth. These humans, he whispered. They were waiting for us. The Dominion's wrath shuddered as a final beam from Earth's surface pierced its side. The flagship, once a symbol of power, broke apart in silence, scattering into glowing debris that fell helplessly toward the atmosphere. In the underground command center, the final red dot blinked and vanished from the map. The operators exhaled, the weight of the battle finally lifting. Enemy fleet destroyed. One announced. General Harris allowed himself a slow nod. Then it is done. On the surface, humanity celebrated. People cheered in the streets, embraced their families, and looked to the skies with pride. They had faced an empire that ruled the stars, and they had not only survived, they had won. But in the quiet moments that followed, Harris knew the truth. This was not the end. News of the Empire's defeat would spread across the galaxy. Other civilizations would hear of Earth's strength. Some would fear, some would envy, and some would come. Humanity had revealed its power, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The remnants of the Zarathian fleet drifted in orbit, a fragmented shadow of what had once been the galaxy's most feared armada. Smoke trailed from broken engines, and debris from shattered ships glimmered against the void. The surviving crews scrambled desperately, trying to assess their losses. Their pride, built over millennia, had been crushed in minutes. Admiral Takar hovered over a damaged control console aboard his remaining cruiser. Sparks erupted around him as alarms blared. His crew was tense, eyes wide with fear, their confidence shattered. This was a defeat unlike any they had ever known. Report, Takar demanded, though he already knew the answer. All ships damaged beyond repair, sir. Engines offline. Weapons systems destroyed. Shields are gone, an officer stammered. Takar's claws clenched the railing. His voice, normally sharp and commanding, now carried the tremor of disbelief. Impossible. A single planet. And they destroyed us so easily. He looked out at Earth below, its blue oceans calm, its continents unscarred by the chaos above. The humans had barely lifted a finger to harm the surface, yet their precision and power had torn apart the greatest fleet in the galaxy. This is a species we underestimated, another officer muttered. We thought they were primitive. We thought they would kneel, and now, we are nothing before them. The truth weighed heavily on Takar. For centuries, the Zarathians had ruled through fear. They had never known humiliation. And yet, here they were, reduced to drifting wrecks, trapped by the very planet they had meant to conquer. On Earth, General Harris watched the last flashes of the destroyed fleet on the orbital display. The red markers, the last survivors, flickered weakly before disappearing completely. The humans had done it. The Empire had been defeated in a single engagement. Begin Phase 4. Harris said calmly. The defense grid, which had already repelled every attack, shifted from protection to control. Invisible beams moved through space, touching the surviving Zarathian ships. Their engines stuttered and shut down. Energy fields disrupted navigation systems. Even if the survivors tried to escape, Earth's quantum systems prevented it. They were trapped. In the damaged flagship, Takar roared in frustration. Divert all remaining power to engines. We will not be taken alive. But the cruiser remained immobile. The crew tried every manual override. They pressed buttons, flipped switches, and rerouted power, yet nothing worked. The humans had disabled their engines remotely, controlling every ship with precise calculations. Outside, Earth's drones emerged from lunar bases and orbital stations. Hundreds of them moved with flawless coordination, surrounding the remaining Zorathian vessels. They were not attacking yet, they didn't need to. They simply held the fleet in place, an invisible cage made of speed, intelligence, and human ingenuity. Back on Earth, operators monitored the prisoners. Every movement of the Zorathian ships was anticipated. Every attempt to escape was countered instantly. No human on the planet needed to fire a weapon to prove dominance. The very presence of the defense network and drones was enough to enforce control. Takar's pride was the last thing keeping him alive. He refused to accept submission. "Send a transmission. We will negotiate." A communications officer hesitated. "Sir, they may not respond the way you expect." Takar ignored the warning. He activated the transmitter. Across countless frequencies, he sent a message. A declaration of survival, a demand for parley. The response from Earth was not words. It was silence. At first, Takar thought it was a delay, a signal failure. But then he realized the truth. Humans did not negotiate with those who underestimated them. Humans acted, and their actions spoke louder than any message. From the underground command centers, General Harris observed the trapped fleet. He could see every ship, every system, every possible move the Zorathians could attempt. The humans had predicted this engagement long before the first plasma bolt was fired. "They are trapped," Harris said softly. "Every path of escape is blocked. Every weapon disabled. They are at our mercy." For the Zorathians, it was a moment of bitter clarity. Ships that had been symbols of power now floated helplessly, like fallen birds with broken wings. The fleet's officers whispered among themselves, fear replacing pride. They had never faced a species like this, one that could outthink them, outfight them, and outlast them while showing no mercy. Takar's voice cracked with fury. "We are the Empire. We will not be defeated by humans." One of his officers, younger and more honest than the rest, spoke quietly. "Admiral, they already have. We cannot fight them. We cannot escape. They are beyond anything we've seen." The words echoed through the bridge. Takar's claws shook as he looked at the calm blue planet below. The humans, they realized, had been preparing for this day for decades. Their defenses, their weapons, their technology, it had all been waiting for the moment the Empire arrived. General Harris, meanwhile, gave the next command. "Open communication with survivors. Offer evacuation protocols, human oversight only. No retaliation. We need witnesses." On Earth's displays, the operators monitored the Zorathians as they hesitated. Fear was evident in their movements. For the first time, they were not conquerors, they were subjects. And yet, Earth did not strike a single ship. No additional beam, no further destruction. Humanity had already proven its point. The humans had shattered the pride of the galaxy's most feared fleet, not through blind destruction, but through precision, intelligence, and patience. The message was clear. Underestimate humans at your peril. As the last survivors of the fleet accepted the human instructions, Takar finally lowered his head. His empire had survived countless wars, but here, in the presence of a planet that refused to bow, it had failed. For centuries, he had believed in the inevitability of conquest. Now he faced the terrifying truth. The most powerful species in the galaxy had met its match, and it was not another empire. It was humanity. On Earth, the world breathed as one. People looked to the skies, unaware of the full extent of the battle, yet sensing a victory beyond imagination. Children played in the streets, people embraced, and the ocean sparkled under the sun as if celebrating the planet's triumph. But the leaders, the scientists, the generals, those who had orchestrated the defense, understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The humans had shattered an empire, but word of their victory would travel faster than any ship. Other species would take notice. Some would fear, some would envy, and some would come, seeking either alliance or challenge. Yet for now, Earth remained untouched, unbowed, and triumphant. Humanity had not only survived the greatest threat it had ever faced, it had rewritten the rules of power in the galaxy. Admiral Takar, defeated and humiliated, looked out at the planet one last time. He saw the blue oceans, the green continents, the peaceful cities, and he realized that this species, these humans, had qualities the Empire could not comprehend. Strength, patience, unity, and the courage to act decisively when needed. They are unlike anything, he whispered. And as the remnants of the fleet surrendered, drifting silently under Earth's watchful gaze, the galaxy began to learn a lesson that no empire could ignore. Humans were not prey. Humans were not to be underestimated. Humans were, in every sense, a force to be reckoned with. Above Earth, the sun rose, casting golden light across continents. The oceans sparkled, cities hummed with life, and the planet itself seemed to breathe with renewed pride. Humanity had faced annihilation and emerged victorious. The Empire's pride had been shattered. And in the quiet moments that followed, one thing was clear to everyone who understood what had happened. The galaxy would never forget Earth. The Zorathian fleet, once the pride of the galaxy, lay in ruins around Earth's orbit. Their ships, broken and powerless, drifted silently among the stars like fallen monuments to a pride that had been shattered. The survivors, humbled and fearful, followed every human command without resistance. They were no longer conquerors. They were witnesses to a power far beyond their understanding. On Earth, General Harris watched the last of the enemy's ships through the orbital displays. Every movement of the Zorathians was now under human observation. They were alive, yes, but every action was calculated and controlled. There was no mercy wasted, no unnecessary cruelty. Humanity had demonstrated its superiority not through vengeance, but through precision, intelligence, and restraint. They will return, one operator warned quietly. Other fleets will hear of this. Other empires will take notice. Harris nodded. Let them take notice. The galaxy will learn that humans are not to be underestimated. Word of Earth's victory spread fast, not through communication satellites or transmissions, but through the observation networks of alien civilizations that had been monitoring the Zorathians' movements. Other species watched, wide-eyed, as the so-called primitive humans had destroyed, trapped, and controlled a fleet that had once ruled over countless worlds. Across the stars, whispers began. If they defeated the Empire's finest so easily, what else are they hiding? Prepare your defenses. The humans may come next. They are unlike any species we've known. The galaxy, long dominated by fear of the Zorathians, now faced a new uncertainty. Humans had proven that strength was not measured by size, numbers, or ancient reputation. It was measured by intelligence, unity, and courage. Back on Earth, life resumed its normal rhythm. Cities buzzed with activity. People went about their daily routines, and the sun rose over oceans and continents without interruption. On the surface, humanity had been victorious, but no parades or celebrations were needed. The triumph was in knowing that the planet had survived, that its people were safe, and that the galaxy had witnessed a new truth. Humans were a force unlike any other. In underground command centers, General Harris and his team monitored the Zorathians. They had survived the encounter, but their pride had been broken. The humans gave them instructions for evacuation, guiding the remaining ships to safe positions far from Earth's orbit. Every step was controlled, ensuring that none of the enemy could act impulsively. The surviving Zorathians, humbled by the experience, watched in silence as the humans coordinated their movements. Their voices trembled when they spoke, realizing that the species they had once thought inferior had outmatched them in every way. Admiral Takar, now a shadow of the proud commander he had once been, whispered to his remaining officers, "They are not like any species we've encountered. Remember this day. Never forget it. Even in defeat, the humans offered no insults, no humiliation. They were calm, precise, and just. Their actions had sent a clear message across the galaxy. Strength was not in domination alone, it was in preparation, intelligence, and unity." As the survivors of the Zorathian fleet departed, Earth's sensors recorded every movement. Every system, every strategy, every weakness the Empire had revealed was logged and analyzed. Humans understood that their victory, though complete, was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with unknown civilizations, some peaceful, some dangerous. But now the first warning had been sent. Humanity was not prey. In distant star systems, news of the battle spread like wildfire. Planets once indifferent to Earth's existence now took notice. Traders, explorers, and even distant empires began to monitor the planet, wondering what kind of species could destroy the Zorathians' pride in a single engagement. And yet, Earth did not broadcast victory. No speeches were made, no conquests claimed. Humans had acted out of necessity, not arrogance. Their silence spoke louder than words. It told the galaxy that they were capable, intelligent, and united. That when provoked, they acted with precision and resolve. That to challenge Earth was to risk destruction. Children playing in cities on Earth's surface felt the subtle tension in the air, though they did not know why. Adults went about their routines, some gazing at the skies where faint glimmers of the destroyed fleet still drifted, sensing that something monumental had occurred. Humanity had survived a test, and the world itself seemed to breathe easier, proud in its unspoken victory. Back in the underground command centers, Harris addressed his team. "This is only the beginning. The galaxy will watch us and some will come to test us. We must be ready for the next challenge. But remember, we have shown what humans are capable of. Our strength lies not in weapons alone, but in our unity, our intelligence, and our resolve." The operators nodded. They understood that this battle had changed everything. Humans had not only survived, they had rewritten the rules of power in the galaxy. And in doing so, they had made themselves both feared and respected. Meanwhile, the Zorathians struggled to comprehend the defeat. On their homeworlds, the survivors' reports of humanity were met with disbelief. How could a planet of seemingly primitive beings have shattered the pride of the Empire so completely? Questions arose among the high councils of the Empire. Strategies would need to change, fleets would need to be rebuilt, and the galaxy would never again view Earth as an unimportant world. For humans, however, life returned to a semblance of normality. Cities thrived, schools continued, and laboratories buzzed with research and innovation. The victory was monumental, yet Earth did not seek to dominate the galaxy. Instead, humanity focused on growth, knowledge, and preparedness, aware that the universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of possibilities. As weeks passed, small reports reached Earth from distant observation stations. Alien ships previously thought indifferent began avoiding the solar system. Traders rerouted their paths. Explorers watched from a distance. Every species that had observed the battle understood one truth: humans were a power to be reckoned with. And in the quiet of the night, beneath the stars, humanity continued its work. Scientists experimented with new energy sources. Engineers tested new defenses. Children dreamed of the stars. The galaxy could wait, but humanity was preparing, not for conquest, not for revenge, but to ensure that Earth and all who lived on it would remain free, safe, and unbowed. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible, a planet that refused to yield to the mightiest fleet it had ever seen. A species underestimated for centuries had proven that intelligence, unity, and courage could surpass even the greatest weapons. General Harris stood in the observation room, looking out at the sun rising over Earth. "We have shown them who we are," he said quietly. "And now the galaxy knows. Humans are not prey. Humans are the storm." In the silence that followed, Earth continued its orbit, calm and majestic. The oceans reflected the sunlight. Mountains cast shadows across valleys, and cities pulsed with life. Humanity had won, but more importantly, they had changed the course of history. Across the stars, whispers continued. The humans. They are different. They are strong. They are united. They are dangerous. And with that, the galaxy began to see Earth not as a distant, insignificant world, but as a symbol of a new kind of strength. Humans had proven that courage, preparation, and intellect could overcome any obstacle, even the greatest empire the stars had ever known. Earth would remain vigilant, but for now it celebrated quietly, not with fireworks, not with fanfare, but with the knowledge that the galaxy had learned the greatest lesson of all: underestimate humans at your peril. The empire had been shattered. The survivors had learned humility, and humanity had only begun.